Hey guys, it's Unfocused Big Homie, feeling quite funky off the penny, and today we're doing another episode of Intoxicated Internet Inside Stories. And today we're actually having a bit of a theme this episode, because there is something that I have yet to notice on this website. You see the top here says, vote for fail of the month. Which one of these bad creepypastas is the worst? Click here to vote. Links to the stories, and we got 4 different stories. And I think today we're going to vote which one's the worst. Or the best of the worst. I don't know. But, so we have 4 stories today. We have Ren and Stimpy, Dirt Like You Belongs to the Ground. Then we have a really fucked spelling of Oblivion.exe. The Lost Digimon movie. And the Inugami. I don't know what the fucking Inugami is. I'm about to look it up right quick. Give me just a second. Inugami. Oh, okay, it's dog. Okay, so it's some kind of like dog possession spirit shit. All right, cool. Word. So what's that fucking what's a dog smile? There we go. So we have the Asian dog smile. Well, Japanese specific. All right, let's go. Ren and Stimpy. Dirt Like You Belongs to the Ground. Oh jeez. Oh, this is a motherfucking story. Okay. Who has a 1 star? Oh god, alright. Let's do this. Considering how I watch television constantly, every day, every night, every 24/7, 365, while sitting on my lazy butt on every weekend after school, I've never even bothered to help my mother, because she's always been harping on me while I had other things to do, such as, you guessed it, homework. Lots of schoolwork and not only homework, but I always have to keep on getting a new book every time I pass an accelerated reading test. The main reason for that is that because of my horrible English teacher. I mean, don't get me wrong, I read and type very well, and in retrospect, you can see why. And it's also because this is my Reddit account, as you can see on this post. Oh god. This post is intended to be informative, and unfortunately, it's not about kittens and rainbows. Don't get me wrong, I love kittens. Who couldn't resist snuggling them? But still, I'm not in the mood for that as of this day. The very least I could do is that I'm gonna talk about how weird television really is. The television shows I could ever remember... sorry. The television shows I could ever remember was Invader Zim, SpongeBob SquarePants, Yogi Bear, Scooby-Doo, and a few live-action sitcoms such as Alf, Full House, and the Golden Girls. Who the fuck are you? Today's television wasn't so much like the good old days. Lots of shows are weird. For example, there are Netflix shows that I know are weird and are still weird today. True in the Rainbow Kingdom, Larva, Agretzko, and Big Mouth. Secretly, I despise True in the Rainbow Kingdom because of its cheesy amount of views and its disgusting animation. Netflix thought it was just so good that they had to make more and more versions of the show, and I consider them as duplicates instead of being part of it. I have no comment on that. I have no idea about the lore. My aunt, who takes her irritating 4-year-old bratty short-haired daughter Jocelyn to my house, and staying there for a few weeks every once in a while, forces me to do stuff with Jocelyn together. And by that, Jocelyn puts me into a boot camp, and I don't know what else I was supposed to do, and the only options was to play with her. And every time I try to get out of playing with her, she always goes and tattles to her mother in the most annoying, whiny voice that you would feast your ears upon. The voice of a real tattletale, and she has a face so stupid that even you would want to punch. Understandable. My father seems to be a little more considerate to me than my mother is, and here is why. He doesn't harp on me as much. And when he does, he talks to me normally and calmly about the situation. He isn't as bothersome as my aunt, and he lets me do what I want to do, which inevitably leads to an argument between him and my mother, which starts out as an argument before turning into a flame war, which is until the point where they proceed to start shouting at the top of their lungs at each other. Eventually, they might soon divorce at some point in time, and I know how this might go when it comes to the divorcing of 2 parents. One male and one female. They continuously shout at each other like it's an internet argument up until they plan a divorce. whether or not if they have a child like me, for example, but it's going to usually take place in a courtroom with a bunch of other wishing to be divorced couples. And if I were to choose a parent who would officially take full custody of me, I would like to pick my father. And like I said before, my father acts more civil and nice than my deadbeat vegetable farming mother. Dude, what the fuck is this supposed to be? Ren and Stimpy? Yo. Can we get to the fucking Ren and Stimpy? As for television and internet, I still have cable, but there is Roku that my mother uses for watching informational videos on YouTube that are political, such as Donald Trump related content, and war documentaries about the Revolutionary War, World War I, and World War II. And one thing for sure is I am tired of the garbage she has always been doing since I was 6 years old, when I even got to know who she really is. Both of my parents are opposite. For one, my father is very kind and good-natured, and my mother is plain rude, loud, irritating, abusive, and very nasty. It's a lot like the abusive father and caring mother concept, but except the roles are reversed only in this family. What I like doing with my father is that I watch tons of television and play lots of video games together. Not only that, but frankly, he also goes fishing with some of his friends for a few hours before returning to the shelter. Yo, when the fuck does it? Okay, it does get on eventually. Eventually. I see why this is on here already. The most viewed channels on television that ever laid my irises and pupils upon were Nickelodeon, Nicktoons, Sci-Fi, Chiller, Adult Swim, Fox, and also, you guessed it, sports channels. Yes, my father is into sports, and I am, on the other hand, not into any of that stuff. I'm not super athletic, but I'm pretty good at fighting, and I've still been training ever since. I've been watching Nickelodeon my whole life. And one of the many iconic shows I have ever watched and loved was a show called Ren and Stimpy. Sure, it had gross out humor, but it's not as bad as Fanboy and Chum Chum and Pig Goat Banana Cricket. The show itself contains two characters consisting in the names of Ren Hoek and Stimpy J Cat. Ren is a constantly rude and loud chihuahua, like my mother, and Stimpy is a red Manx cat. As if he were ever to look like one. Wait, what? Stimpy is a red Manx cat, as if he were ever to look like one. Has one white glove and a huge blue nose with visible nostrils, and an almost human-like posterior. These two characters are very well known once somebody were to ever understand what the whole concept of the show is about, and what it consists of. This show constantly focuses on the two protagonists, and they don't go on adventures, which really aren't fun per se, but the show is very entertaining once you watch it, in my most honest opinion. This dude. But this is, if you wish to view the adult party cartoon spin-off, which I've never even liked at all compared to the original version. The spin-off consists of adult humor, swearing, violence, and graphic content. Heck, there was even gore in it. Oh no. The most messed up episodes of the spin-off is Ren Seeks Help, where Ren is sent out. Oh no, dude, just fucking mate. You just remind me of Mr. Enter. Ren Seeks Help, where Ren is sent out of the house by Stimpy after he's abused him for years. When Ren goes to a therapy room where he talks to Dr. Horse about his past, if we were ever to think that there is no episode that could never get even more messed up than this, then I must be the one exaggerating over the whole thing. If I thought I would never get any, if it would never get, I'm sorry. This is already fucking breaking me. If we were ever to think that there was no episode that could never get even more messed up than this, then I must be the one exaggerating over the whole thing if I thought it would never get any worse than this. That was until Christmas, where I snuck out of bed to wake my father behind my mother's back and whispered to him that today was Christmas. What I do on Christmas Eve is tracking Santa Claus on the usual NORAD, which my father had mentioned a few years back before I could even make this post. On Christmas, my father and I went straight to the living room and find that there are tons of presents. Only to find out that 99.11% of them had my cousin's name on them because she is special and is considered by both my mother and my aunt as a sweet little angel who is even more important and special than me. This makes it seem like they barely even care about me, and they most likely would care less if I were to leave this state and never return. Oh, okay. After digging through my cousin's presents for a while, I found a red-colored DVD cartridge shaped present with a green bow tie, with my name written on it in a cursive font. I proceeded to tear out the package in the usual traditional holiday cheery fashion. It was revealed there was a Blu-ray DVD cartridge. It was a Ren and Stimpy episode collection, and there was a stamp on the front of the cartridge that says, "Now with a special episode," in a golden color and in a jolly font. Now, depicting on whether this episode was real or not, I have seen this episode. This was one episode that I'm going to discuss about, and it's the talk of this post. The episode was one episode that only one person had viewed it, and nobody else on this planet has ever watched it. At 12:30 a.m., dude, why couldn't you just do 3 a.m.? And just say fuck it, go all the way. I proceeded to sneak onto my computer while everyone else in my family was sleeping, including my father, to place the disc into my computer. I went into my files, and in the quick access folder, I saw a file that was labeled Ren and Stimpy Collection.avi, and I double-clicked the file, and the very next thing I knew was that the computer automatically full-screened itself. On screen was a menu selection with Ren and Stimpy standing at both opposite sides. Ren is on the left side of the screen, while Stimpy was on the right side. Ren was scratching his head in confusion, and Stimpy was just standing there, looking stupid as always, which had suited his personality perfectly. The background was red and crimson, and the others were splatters of snot and green sludge. The background looked somewhat like the meat of Sloppy Joe, with a few bits of body hair embedded on the red sludges. On the splatters on the options were their labels. The text for the options looked similar to veins from when they turn purple. On the green snot splatters consisted of 4 options that read Play All, Episode Selections, Options, and Exit. Regardless, I didn't have any time to play all the episodes in the middle of the night, so I decided to go into the episode list. Upon hovering my mouse and left-clicking the second option, a squish sound was audible. Luckily, I had my earbuds plugged in so my family couldn't hear the laptop. The screen would take the view faster than a flash over what appears to be a movie theater room, with Ren and Stimpy in front of it. Ren was laughing at what was on the film screen, and Stimpy had a popcorn container in his lap, throwing some kernels into his mouth. What was on the film screen appeared to be a bright and colorful cartoon. The cartoon featured a happy childlike character skipping down the sidewalk in an exuberant demeanor, but it's in the form of a still shot. When I scrolled through the episode list, I got to the very bottom, and there, after the last episode, was the thumbnail and the label of the quote-unquote special episode itself. The thumbnail featured a completely terrified Stimpy, screaming at the top of his lungs until his face turns red. Tears of horror were rolling down his eyes and dripping down his cheeks and chin. Under the thumbnail read, Special Episode, and in all capitalized letters with an exclamation mark at the very end of it. Curious as a cat, I proceeded to left-click the thumbnail, and it took me to a view in front of the film screen. The camera then zooms in, revealing a black and white film countdown for 5 seconds, before fading to black. Suddenly, before I could hover my mouse over to the timestamp, I was interrupted with a sine wave, and the TV color bars on screen. At first glance, the quality was quite low for the test card, with the colors of white, yellow, and turquoise, green, pink, red, blue, and blue at the top, with black and silver at the bottom of the screen. The test card was then cut off by a black screen before fading to show the intro to the Ren and Stimpy show. Okay. Lock in. However, in retrospect, as soon as the intro ended, the light blue background with the paper hole in the center did not contain the titular characters. In fact, there were no characters to be seen, even the title was missing. At the bottom center of the screen read, created by John Kricfalusi and the Bob Camp. The screen then vanished to show the title card of the episode. The name of the episode in a snot yellow color was labeled, Dirt Like You Belongs to the Ground. The title card artwork contained Ren, laying down inside of an open ditch, looking up at the shadowy silhouette of what appears to resemble Stimpy. His eyes were white and his ears were not present, but only in the title card though. Thankfully, I do remember the entire episode, and that is why I'm writing this post. The camera then cut to black before it shows the sky, and as the camera zoomed downwards, it shows the neighborhood. After a glance at the neighborhood, the camera panned over to Ren and Stimpy's house before showing the bedroom. Ren's eyes fluttered open, and then he got up with a yawn. He stretches his body, followed by the sounds of his bones popping and cracking. "Ooh," he croaked. "I hope Stimpy isn't gonna. I can't do. I'm not even gonna attempt the voice. I hope Stimpy isn't gonna mess things up like last night," Ren muttered to himself before he rolls out of bed and makes his way over to the dining room. When Ren got to the dining room, Stimpy was almost done with making breakfast. The camera shows a close-up of what Stimpy made for both himself and his friend. What was on the two plates was a bacon strip and a pair of cracked eggs. They were both in the form of a completely full-on perfect smiley face, and then it shows Ren sitting in the first chair of the dining room with a fork and butter knife in his hands. "Gee, Ren, you sure do look tired today. Go get some coffee. Then you may eat breakfast and get ready for the day," Stimpy told Ren, while Ren, on the other hand, just slumped off to the chair to make himself some coffee. Upon doing so, he placed a cup of coffee on the table, then he sat back down and picked up his silverware again. "Pass it over, you fat buffoon. I'm starving," Ren scowled, banging his silverware on the table demandingly. Ren bared his teeth while grinding his teeth at his friend impatiently. "Here you go," Stimpy began before he passed a plate of the bacon strip and 2 eggs in front of Ren. When Ren looked at his meal, he looked at his chops hungrily. "Eat up. If you want some more, just ask," Stimpy said before putting on a bib and picked up his silverware. Ren downed his food already, and he puts his plate and silverware in the sink so Stimpy could wash them afterwards. "Ren, why am I the one to wash your dishes?" Stimpy asked. Ren face palms, and he starts to explain the reason he did such a thing. "It's because we take turns doing chores every day, Stimpy. About what you said about one day I do the chores and the other you take a turn, and so on and so on. Did you forget about what you said 2 years ago?" Ren raised his voice, only to make Stimpy quiver in fear. "Now, Ren, I understand what you were saying, but there should not be a reason for you to yell at me like that." "To tell you the truth, Ren, I forgot what I said, and it can happen to anyone if you believe me." Stimpy tried to reason with Ren, only to make him angrier. "Was I yelling at you, Stimpy? How loud was the volume of my voice when I answered the question you had asked 10 seconds ago in the first place?" Ren asked. Stimpy thought for a moment before he would say nothing, only to wash Ren's dishes. "I thought that Stimpy," Ren snarled before going into the living room. As he made his way there, he sat on the recliner and he kicked back before he turned on the television. The scene cut back to Stimpy, who just got done eating his breakfast. He took his dishes and he washed them the same way he had done the Ren's dishes. The camera cuts to show Stimpy's face, only to show a very forlorn expression on the Manx cat's face. After a few seconds of showing Stimpy's forlorn face, the camera cuts beside him to show him closing his eyes and looking downward while he washes the dishes. Stimpy slowly, and I mean very slowly, puts his dishes in the dishwasher before walking out of the dining room. His eyes, however, was locked with the screen, as if he were to be looking at me, and the most worrying part is that he still kept that sad expression. Stimpy put his index finger and his thumb onto his chin for a moment before he heads upstairs to grab his purse. As the camera follows him, the bedroom was now in shot, revealing the bedroom door. The door slowly creaks open, showing Stimpy stepping foot into the bedroom. When Stimpy walked into the bedroom to get his purse, he noticed that the door had slammed shut behind him. "Stimpy!" Stimpy shot his head back to see Ren, who looked severely disappointed, however. "Ren, what are you doing here?" "I just went to get my purse to go to the store, that's all." Stimpy began to tremble in terror with the sound of the heavy breathing being present. Stimpy backed away slightly from the angry Chihuahua when he smiled nervously. Stimpy backed away slightly from the angry Chihuahua while he smiled nervously. "It's not even past lunchtime yet, you idiot. The next time you get your purse this early during the day right after breakfast, I'll make sure I send you out of the house." Ren leered at his friend. Ren would walk out the door while looking back at Stimpy and pointing at him. You better wait until noon, you bag of hairballs. Got that? Ren yelled furiously, only for Stimpy to whimper and nod his head in fear. Of course I understand, Ren. Stimpy whined, and when the camera zooms in to Ren, he would squint his eyes and give Stimpy a dirty look. You better put that purse back where it came from, Ren said before slamming the door shut aggressively. This is just actually terrible. This isn't even funny. Everything in the episode went dead silent for a moment before the screen cuts to Stimpy looking down, drooping with his eyes closed. Stimpy laid on the bed on his front side and began to sob in the pillow, and what I could also hear is his muffled cries, though they had sounded a bit quiet. The scene then transitions over to Ren watching television. The camera cuts to a close-up of the television, which had showed something so awful that I didn't want to say it, but it's for the sake of the information for this post. On the television was a news channel. An air command was discussing about George Licker, who had been arrested for the abuse of animals and had been sentenced for 38 years in prison. The teacher showed George Licker, as spoken about by the anchorman, laughing psychotically while torturing a group of dogs with an inky black colored whip. He continuously struck at the dogs with the whip, making them whimper in an attempt to flee, but their objective failed horrendously. Ren, obviously bored, switched the channel to a reality show about boxing. He just sat there with crusty eyes full of visible eye boogers, showing the mood that he's in. He appeared to be very delirious, tired, and extremely stressed out. Ren would sigh before he makes his way into the kitchen and sat at the dining room table, resting his hand under his chin. Stimpy, come downstairs and make lunch. It's noon, and I don't want to wait all day for your lazy butt to just sit there and vogue like the idiot you are. Ren called the minx, but there was no response, not even a whimper. Stimpy, where are you? Ren called again, but there's still no response. Out of anger, Ren yelled at the top of his lungs impatiently. Stimpy, if you don't come downstairs and make me lunch, I'm going to make myself lunch, and you won't have to worry about dinner tonight because you won't get anything. Ren did not get any more responses before going and making his way upstairs in search of his friend. The first place he searched was the bedroom. When he opened the door, the room was darkened, and the only thing that was slightly lit up was the left corner. Stimpy was seen sitting in the corner, and what supported the lighting around the corner was a lamp with a flickering light bulb. Stimpy? Ren slowly stepped foot into the bedroom and approached Stimpy cautiously. Stimpy, are you alright? This was when the nightmare began. Stimpy quickly shot his head back at Ren, screaming at the top of his lungs. And when he screamed, the sound of his voice hit me, and by that, it was at least 10 decibels loud. And it took me 30 seconds for my ears to recover from the... Dude, 10 decibels isn't shit! Oh, what is 10 decibels equivalent to? Wait, come on, AI, please. Please, AI, can you work quickly? That's breathing! Motherfucking breathing is too loud for you! Oh my god, I'm sorry. And by that, it was at least 10 decibels loud. It took me 30 seconds for my ears to recover from the damage that was done to them. At least it didn't explode like a nuclear bomb. His eyes were bloodshot and they were bulging out of his sockets, with veins of purple and red on his arms and scalp. Stimpy's teeth were sharp and cat-like, and his hands, they are real cat claws, and they were soaked with fresh blood, and there was a red shading outline around Stimpy. He yelled out to Ren in the most aggressive voice I have ever heard for such a friendly character like him. Doesn't look like I'm okay, Ren! Ren Howick! Doesn't look like I'm okay, Ren Howick! Does it? Ren gasped before taking a step back away from his friend. Here we go, finally! It's getting fucking good! Ah, it took so long. I suppose not, but why are you acting like this? What even happened to you? Ren's face shifted from the concerned to terrified as he slowly backs away. Stimpy was crawling on all fours like a regular feline. Oh, you have exactly no idea! You have no idea what you did to make me this way. Well, mister, I don't know what you did to make my best friend into a monster. Look at me! Just look at me! Ren, after all you put me through, you have successfully pushed me over the edge! Ren, Stimpy yelled, revealing his true colors. Ren felt severely guilty, so he came up with a way to make Stimpy feel better. Maybe I can make lunch and dinner. How's that sound? You won't have to worry about cooking a single meal for today and tomorrow. Ren suggested, and the next thing I saw that Stimpy had done made my heart sink to its core. Stimpy hissed like a vampire, showing a snake-like tongue flailing in its mouth, before clawing Ren in the face. The camera for one brief moment showed a close-up of the claw marks on Ren's face, and yes, there was literal blood dripping down from each claw mark on the Chihuahua's face. The shot was highly detailed, similar to any other close-up that is shown in any other episode of Ren and Stimpy. The camera goes back into the shot of Ren touching the claw mark and noticing the blood dripping down his face. He saw it on his fingers and on the palm of his hand before looking back in horror at Stimpy. Stimpy, how could you? Ren's face now immediately changed from fear to anger. Why did you do that, Stimpy? Ren snarled. Because karma will get you eventually, Ren. Have you ever learned what karma is? It's come to my attention that the beginning of the abuse had already begun when we had just met. The first time we were friends, you abused me. The second day we were still friends, you abused me. The third day we were friends, you abused me, on and on and on, as if I were to ever call you a friend anymore. Because look at me. You made me into a monster, Ren Hoig, and there is no excuse for any of the things that you have always done. Stimpy ranted at Ren in the sharpest voice he had. Ren looked a little guilty on the inside, but he still looked pretty angry on the outside. The very reason why I have claimed Ren looked slightly guilty is because there was a slight gasp before he could speak. He had looked into his hands in regret before he fires back at his friend. Do you think I wanted you to become this way, Stimson J. Cat? I do want you to be my friend, but I'm tired of your stupidity. If you still think that you're any better than me, because you aren't, you idiot. You're stupid. You're stupid. You are worthless. And to sum things up, you are all but a lazy good-for-nothing instead of what I would call a friend. Ren stomps over to Stimpy, and before he had the chance to pick Stimpy up by his neck, Stimpy proceeds to kick Ren to the door, before quickly knocking him out with a flower pot. And I swear the name that is holy, I heard him snicker! Oh my god. The screen vanished to a tar-black screen before it goes back to Ren, who finds himself in an empty room tied up to a wooden chair with the white light pouring down on him. Everything that was around the room was foggy, making it hard for Ren to see. Where am I? Stimpy, where are you? I want to be free immediately, and the games you are playing isn't very funny, you sack of dust bunnies, Ren said. With a bit of anger being pushed into his voice, I heard a cackle from the title. Wait, what? I heard a cackle from the background, and it sounded somewhat surprisingly enough like Stimpy's. The screen then shifted from the tied Chihuahua to a door with gray fog surrounding the area. The door opened up, and I saw a silhouette similar to Stimpy's, like in the title card, except that he looked even a little more menacing. He was dark, and his eyes and mouth were paper white, and in his teeth there was a red substance dripping down his lower lip. The screen cuts back to Ren, zoomed into his face. He was shivering in fear, and if he were to ever use his hands, he would beg for mercy by the look on his face. Stimpy, don't you dare come any closer to me. Stay back, Ren begged, only for the silhouette of Stimpy to approach, and as it got any closer to Ren, he was panicking, wishing for a miracle to save him. And at this rate, there's no such things as miracles at the moment. I'm warning you, Ren stuttered, trembling in fear under the wrath of the rope that had tied him up. The silhouette of Stimpy grins wider and wider until the smile completely takes over half of his face, which it is starting to scare even me. Up until the point where I became just as scared of Ren. Wait, excuse me. Hold up. The silhouette of Stimpy grins wider and wider until the smile completely takes over half of his face, which is starting to scare even me. Up until the point where I became just as scared as Ren is of that thing that I call Stimpy. However, I was right. The thing is Stimpy, just by the way the shadowy figure looked and the way it had acted. Aren't friends supposed to be close to each other and always be by their side, Ren? We are friends, aren't we? Stimpy tempted with a slow growl in a cat-like manner as he continued to slowly approach the Chihuahua. Ren tried to struggle free, but it was no use. The rope was tied in 5 good knots, making it hard for Stimpy to find a way to break free. The screen then showed the shadowy Stimpy, and what remained in his hand was a disheveled, rusty kitchen knife, covered in dry blood. You want to know why I'm doing this, Ren? Why, Stimpy? Remember. Because Stimpy said before his voice changed into something that's so demonic, so echoic, and so loud that it was almost deafening. You should have got what you deserved a long time ago, Hoick. And because of that, I paused the video to turn down the volume. When I opened the volume settings, I noticed the problem. The volume percentage was on 100%, which had left me severely annoyed. When I reduced the volume to 23%, everything was much better than before. Oh my fucking god, so it wasn't even the thing. It was, you left it on, how'd you leave it on 100%? Whatever. Stimpy lunged out at Ren before slicing his stomach open with the rusty knife, making a large wound that is clearly visible on the poor dog's body. Ren's ear-piercing howls of agony sounded through my earbuds. Stimpy cuts deeper and deeper into Ren's stomach, making him scream louder and louder. He struggled to break free, and yet again, the rope kept him still, and the only part of his body that was able to move was his head. Stimpy claws Ren in the face, only except that it was harsher than before. Ren started to sob in pain, and when he looked into Stimpy's eyes, there were nothing more except all levels of insane. Do you feel it now, Ren? Ren began with a giggle before receiving the top of the chair. The chair falls over and Ren hit his skull on the floor, followed by the sound of a grunt. Stimpy slashes at Ren once more, but he accidentally cuts the rope, breaking Ren free. Ren didn't move, but he was still alive. The cut in his stomach still remained in his body, still drooling crimson red blood. Ren slowly put one hand over his wound before getting on his knees and looking up at the cat. Not the anime moment. Now I understand who you really are, Stimpy. If I'm the first to die before you, you'll eventually be dragged along with me, Ren snarled, and an angry look on his face with tears rolling down his cheeks. He slowly crawls towards the Manx, with the bloody knife still held in his glove. I didn't even get it. I thought this was going to be a really stupid episode like the rest of them. But it was wrong. It was all wrong. It didn't even make any sense because Stimpy wouldn't bother to fight back against the wrath of Ren, no matter how aggressive the Chihuahua can be. I don't even consider bothering to prefer one race of... What? I don't even consider bothering to prefer one race over the other. Just so you won't get me wrong, but I prefer cats and dogs equally. That came out of this was definitely on Reddit. This was definitely on fucking Reddit at some point. I believe it. The episode progresses on with Ren and Stimpy in the same room as I had described for you before. Out of shock, Ren, despite he was heavily injured, began to jump onto Stimpy and claw at him like a wild animal. The screen cuts to black for a few seconds before it shows Stimpy knocking Ren out with the handle of the knife, presumably knocking him out temporarily. That is, until the next scene. Stimpy grabs Ren's left leg and dragged it off screen before the camera pans over to show the door they had entered through. I basically had this strange feeling where I felt bad for Ren, and at the same time, I didn't. The door to the room I was open showed nothing but a bright white heavenly light. Stimpy walks towards the entrance to the room as the camera had shown the back-facing view of him dragging Ren out of the room and out of the door. As soon as he left the room while he vanished into the light with Ren, the door shuts behind itself, showing nothing but pure darkness of the room. The scene transitioned over to show what appeared to be the backyard with a ditch and a gravestone. While the camera zoomed in to get a better shot, what also remained of the backyard was Stimpy, a shovel in his hand, and in his other hand was Ren's unconscious body, dragging Ren by the leg. Stimpy was facing away from the camera slightly, and while he held the shovel in his hand. "Before I bury you, Ren, I have one more thing to say," Stimpy whispers in a very unnerving way before lifting Ren up, about to drop him into the abyss. "Dirt like you belongs to the ground." He said it! He said it! He said the fucking episode's name! Let's go! He snapped. He slowly let go of Ren's leg after dangling him over the abyss. And when he lets him go, Ren fell down into the lightless abyss of the ditch in slow motion, to be consumed by the darkness. He was facing away from the camera, and before I thought the snapper was over, Stimpy slowly, and I mean slowly, I mean very slowly, turned around and faced the screen. Now with that, his usual stupid look that he puts on, he no longer looked intimidating. He looked like himself again. He faced the camera for 15 seconds, and I swear, he creeped me out when he broke the fourth wall. He winked at the camera. And I'm not lying to you when I say this, because he literally winked at the screen, directly at me. When he winked, the screen vanished to black before showing a very unsettling picture, what was indeed creepier than the title card. This horrendous image featured Ren at the very bottom of the ditch, lying down in a coffin. His fur and skin were dark green, and his eyes had not even featured any irises and pupils. Instead, they were black X marks. And the color on the inside of the ditch was a bluish shade. Ren's body had tons of holes, with worms squirming around in them. His mouth was open, and his tongue was hanging out of his maw. The blue light illuminated the inside of the ditch, and on the exit wall above was Ren's head. On the exit wall above Ren's head was a shadow of Stimpy with a wide grin on his face. In Ren's left hand was a paper card that read "The End" on it. The screen then faded to darkness before it takes me back to the menu selection screen. I clicked the exit option, and I already figured that I've had enough computer time for the night. The screen took me back to my desktop. It was completely and perfectly normal. No damage done. I opened the disc player, and I took out the disc before putting it back into the DVD cartridge. And once I did, I powered down my computer and put the DVD cartridge back under the Christmas tree. I snuck right back into bed. It was already 1 hour and a half past 12:30 anyways. Say 2 o'clock! I stumbled my way back into my bedroom, and before I jumped onto my bed and got into my covers. When I fell asleep, I had a ton of weird dreams. They were insanely surreal, and that they were all messed up. And they were all one mess all formed into a blob. I honestly think that these weird dreams that I'm making in my head is probably most likely the fall of the episode of Ren and Stimpy that I've already watched that night on Christmas Eve. At 8:30 a.m., I woke up and went to the bathroom. There was no sign of my aunt and her waste-of-flesh daughter. Fuck. I let out a sigh of relief and went to the bathroom in peace. After I urinated, I flushed the toilet, washed my hands, and without forgetting, put on some deodorant. Alright, at least this Redditor has deodorant. Thank fucking God. One saving grace of this post. When I went into the living room, I noticed that my niece's presents were no longer in sight. Instead, I had all kinds of great presents. I had already found out that it was all thanks to my father. Right after Christmas, it was this Saturday that my father and I went to court, and he is now able to take full custody of me. And to make matters better, my mother is sentenced to life in prison after the crime she had committed. She was arrested for armed robbery, forgery, abuse, and drunk driving, which I was oblivious about, except for the abuse part. I mean, she was extremely abusive towards me since the beginning. When I looked behind myself, I saw my mother in an orange inmate jumpsuit, which was the outfit I've been wanting to wear a decade ago. Afterwards, my father and I moved into a better house with better internet, and it did take quite some time for my stuff to be moved into the house I'm still in today. I bet you're wondering how long it would take me to type all this up. Well, I would say that I was typing this post for 2 months, Said it did take up some time for my stuff to get here. I've got my video game systems, my computer, my television, and yes, we do have cable from right where I am. And I did make sure to save all of the progress I have made on the post that I've been typing up for these estimated 2 months. And as I said before, I still have that Ren and Stimpy DVD case. What the fuck? You call it a case at the end, but you've been calling it a cartridge the entire fucking story. And I still use it, but I'm never gonna watch that so-called special episode ever again. And I will never forget what happened on that dreadful night. Dude, this was truly terrible. Oh my god, even if I was sober, I think I would have fucked up just as many times. Like, what? I was like, yeah, dude, this shit sucks. This is terrible. I think the rant is the only reason I'm gonna give it 2 stars. 1.5, yeah, this shit definitely belongs 1.5. Well, that is god awful. I don't know how any of these are gonna be worse than this. Genuinely, I've wasted my fucking time reading this. Let's go on to Oblivion.exe. Another long ass one, bro. Okay, at least this one has a 5-star. Might be a little better. Okay. 0BI1V10N.exe. Oblivion.exe. I still remember my first Xbox 360. I remember I would spend countless hours playing the few games that I had. My favorite one being The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I was only 8 at the time, and I had gotten the game about a month after it came out, and I had beaten the game in early 2008, near when I learned that Skyrim was in production. I stopped playing the game after that, and when I got addicted to Team Fortress 2 on Steam. Hell yeah, base fucking author. It's been 10 years since then, and my skills as a hacker were getting amazing. I can now pretty much any game I wanted in about an hour with no trouble. Okay, I am reading that right. I remember hearing about the new version of the Oblivion construction kit that had just been released, and decided I would try to get a copy of Oblivion for my PC so I could start modding the game. When I searched for a link to get the files I needed, I couldn't find any websites that worked. My internet connection was horrible at the time, and the pages would freeze because of the lag. I did find one link that worked, however. The page loaded up after a few seconds of waiting, and the website looked very strange. The background was completely black with a single line of red line of text saying, "Download Oblivion.exe." I was curious as to why the name of Oblivion was so strangely spelled, but I decided it didn't matter as I could still run the game. So I clicked the download link. After the download started, the page changed to a new tab. I could have sworn that before the page changed, there was a little light line of text at the bottom right corner saying, "Sorry." The download notifications told me that a folder called was downloading. The download finished about half an hour, and I looked to see what was in the folder. The only thing I found on the site was a RAR file titled Oblivion.exe. When I opened it up, I found the ISO disk image, the launcher titled Oblivion.exe, and everything else that would be needed to run the game. I was ready to get started on modding the game. However, I had never had the add-ons as a kid, and wanted to see what they were and if they affected the gameplay. I also wanted to see if this third-party version of the game was different from the original version. So I decided to start playing instead of downloading the construction kit. I modded the ISO disk image using daemon tools, like normal, and opened the Oblivion launcher. When I started up the game, the normal Oblivion launcher window started up like normal. I clicked play, and the game began to load. As usual, the Bethesda software logo came up, and I couldn't believe that I was actually playing the game again, ready to relive my childhood memories. When the title screen came up, I was excited to hear the title music again. I changed the control settings to my liking so that I would be able to play the game easier, and I clicked a button that said, "New Game." The game started like normal, with Emperor Uriel Septim telling us about how he senses the coming of Oblivion in the years of Akatosh. I've never played any fucking Elder Scrolls games, so if I'm going to pronounce these names bad. Along with his own death. To my surprise, the character creation screen never came up, but instead, It started me out in the cell at the beginning. I was confused. It normally allows me to create my own character. I looked in the menu to see what my character was. It turns out my character was, for some reason, a high elf named ... He had 91 health, 121 fatigue, and oddly enough, 450 magicka. He, to my surprise, had all the attributes and skills, so all of his attributes and skills selected. He had the mage burst sign, and his major skills were conjuration, destruction, mysticism, illusion, restoration, athletics, and sneak. He started out with the spells Lightning Blast, Silence, Disintegrate Armor, Summon Daedroth, Superior Spell Reflection, Superior Spell Absorption, Heal Major Wound, and Cure Poison. I couldn't wait to get started. Sure, it was weird starting out as this overpowered character, but at the same time, it felt awesome, and I couldn't wait to try some of these new badass spells on some creatures. When the Emperor came in with his blades, they let me through the secret passage like normal, but this time, the Emperor seemed more unnerved than gratified to see me. I was curious to why this was, but I continued to play the game like normal. When the first battle with the cult members came around and Captain Reynolds got killed, Glenroy embarrassed, instead of attacking the cult members, would try to attack me for some reason. When I killed all the cult members without help, they stopped trying to kill me and left into the prison like normal. I paused the game quickly and tried to work my brain around what happened. Not only was I an unknown character with huge magical abilities, but I was also targeted by the blades whenever the mythic drawn cult members were in the room. I began to nervously start thinking that the reason I was in the prison had something to do with the mythic dawn cult, but passed it off as my imagination and continued to play the game. I escaped the sewers like normal, without choosing my attributes and birth sign of course, and decided to sell some of the junk I found in the sewers in the Imperial City. I ran up to the city like normal, jumping to level up my acrobatics, and came to the market district. I was surprised when I entered the market district to find that it was empty of all the townspeople that usually wandered around, and all the Imperial Legion guards were missing as well, except for one, who stood at the entrance of the arena district. I quickly talked to this guard to see what he had to say, but when I talked to him, I saw his mouth move, but the only thing I heard was an odd, quiet murmuring sound, almost like somebody's whispering in someone's ear. I had to leave the talk quickly and turn on subtitles before talking to him a second time. The text that normally appeared when he spoke said, "They're looking for him. They say he opens the gates and he must die, but I don't think it will stop." I didn't understand what he meant by that, and assumed by them, he meant the other Legion guards that normally patrol the Imperial City, and that the gates were the hellish gates to the Oblivion Realm. As for him, I didn't know who or what he meant. I was met by a few text options detailing what I could say. My options were, "Where is everyone? What's wrong? Who are you? And finally, who am I?" The last one kind of creeped me out because of the mystery of the character I was playing. I still had no idea what my character's name was, so I asked the guard, "Who am I?" The text at the bottom was unreadable, as it was a mix of gibberish and many random letters and numbers connected together. The most unnerving thing about this was that the sound in the background, it sounded like static mixed with a woman screaming in pain. Thoroughly disturbed at this point, I stopped talking to the guard and decided to go and sell my unwanted items. I decided to go to Slash and Smash first because I could sell weapons there. Since I'm mainly a hand-to-hand user, I never carry weapons. When I talked to Herbal, I noticed his disposition with me was at 0, indicating he hated me. I ignored this and checked his shop, which to my surprise had nothing in stock. There was no armor, weapons, pelts, and I even repair hammers. I sold him my items and left, confused at this point. When I went to the next store, the Mystic Emporium, Calendil and Arlen Way both hated me too, and had no items to sell. This unnerved me as I didn't know why it was happening. I went to every store in the district and got the same response from every merchant, except for one, Rindeer the Magic Staff merchant. He had a disposition of 46, which is pretty good, and he had one staff in his store, as well as an enchanting Roman ring. The staff had 10 points of disintegrate armor and 7 points of shock damage, and the robe had 25 shield points, and the ring had 50 fortify intelligent points. Every one of the items was amazing, only 1 gold piece each, so naturally, I decided to buy them. I paid Rindeer my 3 gold pieces and left the store. I almost wish I hadn't. When I came out of the shop and into the market district, I was met with a gruesome sight. I saw the people who were usually in the town, along with the guards, lying on the ground dead. By dead, I mean they were killed in the most gruesome and horrible ways possible. I saw one of the guards with his head and legs lying about 5 feet from his torso. And the next I saw was a villager being skinned and hanging from a signpost. It was more graphic than anything I knew the game to be, and I thought to myself, that's not possible. Ain't possible. No. Random fucking link I got from the internet? No. I saw a man standing near the entrance of the city aisle, and I was glad to see someone who wasn't dead. I ran towards the man as fast as the game would let me, but I saw him leave out of the gate. I ran past the bodies of the townspeople to the gate, hoping I would be able to catch up with him in the open world. I saw him leaving across the bridge very quickly, and I let myself believe that I couldn't afford to miss him. Since everyone was dead, I decided that nobody would mind if I stole a horse from the city. Horse City stables to catch up with him. With the horse, I was now fast enough to catch up to him, and while I was close enough, I decided to talk to him to see maybe if he had any answers for me. When I looked more closely at him, though, the man was a high elf who looked very much like my character. Almost identical, in fact. When I talked to him, I was shocked to see his name was Mankar Cameron. In case you didn't know, Mankar Cameron was the prime antagonist of this game. So I was surprised to see him this early in the game. He had absolutely nothing to say to my character. And when I clicked to leave the conversation, he just vanished into the air, like he was never there. I was very nervous and confused at this point, and I wanted to see if something had changed. I opened the menu, switched to the information section, and looked at the name of my character, and in the place of the original name, the name had been changed to Mankor Cameron. I exited the menu with a lot of confusion on my face. I was the antagonist? I was the one who targeted the Emperor for assassination? I then knew what the guard in the city was talking about. About him. About me. I understood what he meant when he said he didn't think it would stop. He meant all of the debts, the murders, the gates constantly opening, the Daedra pouring out of the gates, all because of me. At this point, I just wanted this whole thing to be over and wanted to shut off the game. But when I pressed the quit in the pause menu, the game said, "You can't escape your fate." When I came back to the main game, I was surprised to find myself in a completely different location. Instead of the bridge outside the Imperial City, I found myself in the very dungeon I started out in, except the gate leading out of the prison cell was open. Curious as to why I was there again, I decided just to go the way I left at the beginning of the game. But before I turned my back to the open gate, a shadow rushed past on the wall behind the gate, and from what I saw, it looked like the silhouette of a tall, menacing creature with very long fingers and an abnormally long neck, which resembled a spinal cord to some extent. Not wanting at all to find out what that thing was, I just decided to run as fast as I could through the dungeon. Out of the corner of my eyes, even as I was running, I saw the shadow gaining on me. I prayed for Cameron to run faster, for once in my life, but the shadow was catching up fast, and there was nothing I could do about it. And then I remembered, I had some of the most overpowered spells in the entire game, plus my new staff, robe, and ring. I decided to wait for whatever that thing was to come to face me, and I would be able to fight it off. I was wrong. No amount of money or happiness or anything will make me willing to see what I saw again. Nothing prepared me for what that creature was. It was Emperor Uriel Septim, his robes bloodied and torn, with little chunks of flesh hanging off the many seams and furs. His fingers were so long because they had been torn out whole, with only a few tendons and nerves holding them to the rotting hands. His spinal cord had been ripped out to the point of protruding his head about 3 feet above his shoulders, and his lower jaw and eyes had been cut out and replaced with bloody pits and cavities. I had to struggle to keep myself from upchucking on the computer screen, because I knew if I gave him the opportunity, Septim would kill me. I cast my lightning blast spell at the deformed emperor, but he just shrugged it off, taking only a measly sliver of damage to his health bar. I decided to summon a Daedra to help me fight, but the moment I did, the Emperor turned to my Daedra and lunged at it, killing it in one hit. I decided my best bet was to run as fast as I could to the exit of the sewers. That's what I tried to do. I entered the main underground caverns and passed into the corridor leading to the room where the Emperor was assassinated. The Emperor began running a bit faster towards me, and I knew I had to get out of there as fast as I could. But no matter how fast I ran, the mutilated Emperor would be one step closer and closer. And the closer he got, I can hear static faintly rising in the background. I ran into the room where the Emperor was killed, and I was glad to finally escape this nightmare. But as soon as I entered the room, I saw that my only way out had turned into a dead end. The small corridor through which I had escaped into the sewers had been blocked off, and I knew that I was a sitting duck for the dead septum. The static was now deafening, and I knew Cameron was about to die. The moment that the Emperor was about to touch me, the moment that he was just one hair away from ripping my heart out, the static stopped, and my computer screen was now occupied with a blue screen of death, meaning the game had planted a serious virus in my computer. I was relieved and terrified that the blue screen had came when it did, and I let out a long, harsh breath when I realized this is over. Oh, how wrong was I about that? The next day, I took my laptop to the Geek Squad to see if it could be saved. After about 2 weeks of waiting and playing on my PS3, I got a phone call from the Geek Squad telling me that my computer was now running smoothly, and I can come by to pick it up. When I boot the computer, everything was normal. Except for one thing, the file, Oblivion.exe, and everything else having to do with the game was gone. A few weeks had passed by since then, and I had spent most of my time playing games like Team Fortress 2, Counter-Strike, and Diablo 3, and pretty much anything that had nothing to do with Elder Scrolls. One day in the last week, my computer had been acting strangely. Every time I logged into the laptop, I found a single notepad window open to the desktop, asking me things like, "How are you?" and "What now?" On the last day, which was a Thursday, a notepad file showed an HTML link. When I copied and pasted the link into Firefox, I was shocked to see the same plain black website where I got into the horrible game. The red letters showed that the download link like before, but unlike before, I knew when to say no, so I closed the Firefox and decided to connect to Steam and play some Counter-Strike. However, when I opened up my Steam profile and tried to put in my account information, it said, "We're sorry, but the account you specified has been disconnected. Please log in with a valid Steam login information and try again." I was seriously confused. How could my Steam account have been disconnected? I had never broken the Steam rules or terms of use, never broken any laws, or gotten any complaints from fellow users. I was pretty angry at this point, so I closed out the Steam window, only to see the notepad open again saying, "Close shut the jaws of oblivion." Realizing that my computer was telling me to play the game again, I closed the notepad window and shut off the computer. It was late anyways, and I figured that it wouldn't hurt to get some sleep. That night, I had a nightmare about the game. That god-awful Uriel septum was chasing me through my house, and all of the doors and windows had been sealed off with wet cement. Only choice was to stand still and wait for this thing to come. When it finally arrived, I saw it lunge at me, knocking me to the ground, and I saw it eating my limbs off from my position on the floor. After he was done with my left arm, he moved his face closer to mine. The last thing I heard was Uriel whispering into my ear in a demonic tone, "You're mine now." Uriel lunged at my throat in the flash of a second. Uriel lunged at my throat in the flash of a second, and I was now awoke screaming. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. The image of that thing ripping my flesh off kept flashing through my mind. And I had no idea what he meant by, "You're mine now." I had no idea why this was happening so long after I played the game, but I couldn't keep my mind off it, so I decided to play on my PlayStation 3. When I loaded up the system, I attempted to log in, but there was no user profiles to choose from on the system. I was getting really freaked out at this point. However, all of my internet connections being shut down, first my Steam account and now my PSN profile, I had enough of the video games for that day, so I went over to my friend's house to see if it was available for a movie with our old high school buddies later that evening. I was surprised to see he was right outside of his house, as if he were waiting for something. I walked up to him and asked, "How have you been, bro?" "I got your message." "What message?" "The message you sent to me on Steam." "How could you say those things to your best friend?" Seeing as he seemed not to know, I told him what had happened. Bro, my Steam account was disconnected yesterday. I couldn't have sent any of those messages, good or bad." "Well, you did, because I got a message on my Steam account from you telling me that. Wait. Well, you did, because I got a message to my Steam account from you telling me that I wouldn't know what it's like to have my bones crushed." "What the fuck? I never sent those messages," I yelled in shock. "Who sent them then?" "I don't know, but I think I'm getting stalked by a hacker anyways. My PSN profile was shut down as well." "Weird," he said, shrugging his shoulders. "Well, if you're right about this, you better be right. Then let me help. I know a thing or two about putting up defenses against hackers." "Thanks, bro," I gratefully replied. I was glad that I could finally tell somebody about all this crazy shit that was happening, and that maybe he could help. When we got to my house, we went into my bedroom and booted up the laptop. When I had put in my password and opened Windows, deafening static sounded and almost got a heart attack from what I saw. My desktop photo had been replaced by a screenshot of the undead Mangle Uriel septum, rushing at the screen in a rage. Under the image was a text. "Leave now. He's mine and mine alone." My friend screamed, jumping out of his seat extremely fast and flew up against the wall. It didn't take too long to understand what had happened. When I looked away from the screen to my friend, I saw blood streaming down the wall behind his head on the wall, and his eyes were starting to glaze over. I was too terrified to do anything but start crying. I couldn't even get off the bed that I was sitting on. I knew my friend had met his end, and I couldn't have felt worse. After about 2 minutes of just sitting there crying, I finally brought up the courage to pick up my cell phone and dial 911. While the dial tone was ringing, I noticed the notepad was open and text saying, "Finally, I can have you all to myself. Wouldn't you agree?" When the police arrived, I was too scared to do anything while I examined for evidence. They said that the cause of death was a skull fracture that pierced shards of bone deep into his brain, as well as severe internal bleeding. The police took me to the station to ask me a few questions. I provided a hotel room for me to spend my nights in temporarily while they moved the body. The drive to the hotel felt like it was one of the longest drives of my life. I just couldn't stop thinking that it was my fault. That if I hadn't asked him for his help, hadn't brought him into this, then he would have been okay. But I had to be selfish. I had to worry about what would happen to me if this went unchecked, rather than worry about what would happen to him. When I eventually got to the hotel, all I wanted to do was go to sleep. So I just dumped my luggage at the foot of the room's bed and passed out the moment I hit the covers. I shouldn't have. I had the same nightmare as before, except instead of me, my friend was the one being eaten alive. I was just laying on the ground watching the whole thing. I felt like this was the last time I would ever see him again. I woke up shivering and crying. This was too much for me to handle. I knew that I couldn't just live my life like this and let Uriel torture me like this. I had to find a way to end this. So I decided to do one of the things that I would normally regret to the fullest. I slid my laptop out of the computer case and held it in my hands for one last time. And then, without regret, I threw the computer against the wall hard. I picked up the remaining pieces of the computer and piled them together on a desk. I used my pocket knife's corkscrew function to destroy every last circuit board. I carried the pile of junk and cables and threw the whole lot of it off the balcony. It was 10 floors down, so I began hoping that I had nothing to worry about. The test whether it was over or not, I tried to sleep once more. This dream wasn't a nightmare, but to my surprise, a fairly happy dream. I was in my old house, which was spotless, well lit, and had a merry aura to it. And my family was there, along with my friend. All of the people in my life that I cared about who had passed away, were all there, smiling at me. I noticed that there was a Christmas spread on the dining room, and the radio had turned on to one of my mother's favorite songs, Hey Jude. I woke up at about 7:30 in the morning, feeling the best I had felt in months. I couldn't believe it. It was over. It was all over. I was so happy. I woke up wanting to guess next door am I laughing, but I didn't care who was mad. I was having the best feeling of my life. Let me see. Later on in the next couple of years, I got a new computer, graduated college, got married, got a job as a computer designer at Microsoft, and started a family. But then I remembered there was still something I had to do. I opened up Firefox, I opened up Firefox, looked for the website with the black background and the red text, and I used my knowledge as a hacker to destroy the website so it could never hurt anyone again. And that's where I am now. I'm having the best life I could ever dream of, and to this day, I have never touched a copy of Oblivion again. And because of the events 2 years ago, I never will, and I can rest easy now that I never will, and I can rest easy now that I know that nobody will ever find that game again. Oh, we got a YouTuber reading? That's sick. Damn, 2012? Oh shit, that's an oldie. Honestly, one of the more interesting long ones. Wasn't super over the top. I didn't see no fucking hyper realistic nothing. Shit. Honestly, I wish I can give it a 3.5. I'll give it a 4. I'll be nice. I'll give it a 4. This definitely is not going to win the worst. All right. So definitely Ren and Stimpy way fucking worse than Oblivion.exe. Oh my god, are any of these gonna be small? It's fine. It's fine. Alright, next up. The Lost Digimon movie. I was on my way to work. I was at a local movie theater. Not the greatest place in the world, but hey, free movies. Anyway, I just parked my car and was walking to the theater. Yep, before I got there, "Yo dude," a voice called out. I turned around to see some guy holding a box in his hand. He looked like a pretty normal dude, yet he definitely needed a good night's sleep. Big black bag stuck under his bloodshot eyes. "Hey," he said to me, "like anime?" I'd arrive an hour early for work so I could buy a quick meal before starting my shift, so it wasn't like I was in a rush or anything. Plus, I did enjoy anime a bit. "Yeah," I said, "I dabble in it." "Like Digimon?" the sleep-deprived man asked. "Which season?" I asked. "Tamers," the guy said. "That's the 3rd season for the record." "Wow," I said, "I love that season. Gulimon eating everything, Kazu and Kenta being clowns, and Renamon. Oh man, did I enjoy Renamon." "Then you'll love this DVD," said the guy showing it to me. The title on the box said Digimon the movie. Renamon's Rage. Renamon's Rage? I said confused. I thought the only movies she was in were Runaway Location and The Battle of Adventures. "It's a special uncut movie," the guy said. "That's why it never aired." I began to think this dude was working a scam, so I walked away. "Only $1, the guy said. I stopped and looked back. $1? I said. "Yeah," I asked. "Yes," the guy said. I reached into my wallet and pulled out a Georgia Washington. "Just one, George," I said. "Yes," the super guy said, a bit annoyed. "Just that." "Open it," I said, because the guy was still trying to work a scam. He opened the box and the DVD was indeed in there. It had a little picture of Renamon in it with a black background, and her eyes were blood red, unlike the normal black and blue. "Okay," I said, giving him the buck and taking the movie. "Yes," the man said. "Yes!" He proceeded to leave while happily dancing as well. I looked at the DVD a bit confused, and then at the man, tried to find the logic in all this. Must not be that good," I said. I had been sent home early from work. The theater wasn't that busy tonight, so the managers decided to try to save some money by sending a few of us home. Sweet, I thought, I'll get to watch this movie tonight. Later that night, I popped into my PS3 in my room. Everyone else was asleep at the time, even my dog. Soon enough, the menu comes up. It just shows a picture of Renamon and some fucking Digivices? Yeah, Digivices hanging around their neck like a necklace. She's holding the more in her hands. One says play, the other just gives the language options. I found nothing odd about it, so I pressed play. I really wish I didn't. The scene opens up to the city where the Tamers live. It's nighttime, yet it also looks like a storm is about to come. Every so often, a flash of lightning illuminates the dark buildings and roads. Sadly, every time they did, I was shown some creepy sight. The first scene it cuts to the sign that is covered in flesh blood. Wait. The first scene it cuts to is a sign that is covered in flesh blood, a bit dripping off. I paused for a moment. The blood, man, looks so real. Not computer graphics, but truly real. Needless to say, I found this a bit extreme for the kids show. And again, the guy said it was an uncut version. I dismissed it and played on. The next scene is a motorcycle, yet it has some type of white pointy objects embedded all over it. During the next flash, I get a close-up of it. I now see it's Beelzemod's motorcycle, and the things all over it are diamonds. Yet the worst part is now I saw two small bodies near the vehicle. Ali and Mako, Imp Mom's tamers. They as well were covered all over in sharp diamonds, which are jammed into their skin. This goes on a bit more, showing each of the tamers' parents and families dead in some way. Rika's mom and grandpa impaled to a wall with a Sekuyaman staff. Takado's mom and dad buried up under a building rubble, buried under the burning rubble of their home. The fire is blue. Henry's dad, his neck ripped out as if a wild animal tore into it with its teeth. Jerry and her family, we just see a bloody puppet attached to a dismembered hand. Her parents are like Ali and Mako. I don't know how I sat through all of them. The others that followed were so gruesome and disturbing, but I can't tell on this. After this, I saw Renamom's face appear on the screen. Her eyes are bloody red like they were on the disc. She just stands there looking at me for about 15 seconds, then laughs. No, I said. It didn't take long for me to put two and two together. Renamom had killed them all. What's going on? I said. The camera moves back, and we see Renamom is in that big room where the Hypnos organization tracks Digimon. Renamom sits upon the floating chair and keyboards those. Renamom sits upon the floating chair and keyboard those two ladies are usually at. Then she jumps off it. As she lands, I came upon an unimaginable sight. Takado, Rika, Henry, and the other tamers that weren't shown earlier were tied in separate chairs. I suppose it's meant to be implied she deleted their Digimon earlier. Through the chairs are body parts what I assume were Yamaki and his girls. A dismembered hand held a lighter in it. Rika tries to mumble something at her partner. Renamom's response is tipping her chair over. Humans, Renamom said. How pathetic y'all are. I feel sick that I needed you to once make me stronger. Yet I have now pushed myself past your senseless card games and digestives. I am omnipotent. Renamom walks off screen. A few moments later, she returns with a chainsaw. A blood-colored chainsaw. Oh, hell no. I was trying to stop the movie, yet it wouldn't stop. Huh? I said, assuming my controller must have a low battery life. I went for my remote and pressed power. Still no effect. I was getting terrified just then. I got off my bed I was sitting on. Sit down, Renamom said, looking at me. And when she said this, her voice changed. It sounded as if a devil were speaking through her now. She pointed the saw at the screen. It almost felt like I was seeing a 3D movie as the saw seemed to come out of the screen, roaring louder than before. I froze with fear. This cartoon fox was talking to me. I sat back down, creeped out of my mind. Good boy, Renamom said as she went back to work. As she rammed the saw into the bottom of the chair and, well, Rika lost her virginity to a power tool. I nearly barked. Suez, Henry's sister, began bawling like a baby she was. This all happens in slow motion, by the way. Renamom ripped the saw out of Rika's body, blood and gore everywhere, then slams the blade onto her skull, brains and blood flying out of her. Henry screams neck, Renamom simply decapitates him. Kazu and Kenta wet their pants. The piss touches Renamom's feet. She looks at them. For this part, I'll just say Kenta and Kazu didn't die as men. Next is Rio Renamom. Turns the saw off and then jams it into his gut like a sword. Rio gags. Renamom turns the saw on and obliterates his insides. Now all that's left is Takado. Renamom smells something. You need a change? She asks Takato, who trembles as he nods. That's a bad boy, Renamon says in a sick, pleasurable way. She turns off the chainsaw and puts it down, then kicks Takato's chair down. Renamon proceeds to go over to a nearby wall and get a fire extinguisher that is hanging upon it. She turns it on and blasts Takato with it. The boy screams as the foam gets in his eyes. Renamon then walks over to him, ready to bash his brains with the extinguisher itself. Yet before she does, she begins to scream. No! Silence, the demonic voice says, I control you. Renamon begins to digivolve out of control, changing into each of her forms, even Sakyomon. Leave me alone, Renamon cries. Get out of my head! Akira! She turns into her champion form, Cubimon. She continued to struggle with whatever evil presence has possessed her, all the while finging blue fire from her tails. Obey me, the demon voice says again. Renamon changes back to normal, then grabbing a chainsaw, points it at herself. She turns it on and rams it into her chest. In her own voice and the demon voice, she cries out as she explodes into data. The blue flames from earlier are now a full-blown fire. Takato desperately tries to free himself. Yet the next thing we see is the building he's in explode. Everyone dies. When the credits roll and I took out the DVD, put holy water on it, broke it, and burned it in the fireplace. Who the fuck makes shit like this, I wondered. Next day, as I searched on the web for this movie, after looking around a while, it came up on this message in a blog. There was another Digimon movie. It was never meant to exist, but somehow it did. I highly recommend not watching it. And yet if you do, and I can't stress this enough, you must watch it from start to tone. Don't get up and leave to do anything. The movie warns you even not to. Still, if you do, you will die. I managed to survive this Digimon movie from hell. I can only hope that I have someone else in the story. I have reached someone else with the story before it's too late. The end. Oh my god, Michael Lurie fucking read this one? Hell yeah. That's sick. Yeah, 3 stars is valid. Very fucking valid. This is pretty mid. I feel like I could have done a little more to be a little more ridiculous. Very mid troll pasta. The last one, the Inugami. The last one. Let's see if this could fucking be worse than Ren and Stimpy, because so far, it's easily the worst one. Easily the worst fucking one. Subliminal actually wasn't terrible, and Digimon was just mid. Let's see if this can be either worse than Ren and Stimpy, or funnier than Ren and Stimpy, because it's been kind of boring. It's been kind of a boring day. Let's see. The Inugami. There are many legends and mysteries in the world, particularly Japan, which is well known for its own unique ghost stories about demons and gods, the Oni and the Kami. What is considered a demon or even a god would be the Inugami. The name means dog god in Japanese. The Inugami is a being that represents the anthropomorphic dog. The Inugami is a being that resembles an anthropomorphic dog and is a master in the black arts. According to traditions, the Inugami can be conjured through a complex and very dark sacrificial ceremony. A common dog must be buried up to its neck and be deprived of any food or water. When the dog is about to be perished while being tortured by hallucinations, the head must be severed and then both the head and body must be placed in a well-prepared ritual. Only then will an Inugami be made. Families who keep an Inugami within their household are called Inugami mochi, meaning those who keep a dog god as a pet. However, not all Inugami are loyal as benevolent to their masters. Some can turn on their master and even kill them if the master is not well. Some can turn on their master and even kill them if the master is not a well-trained conjurer. One such Inugami is said to exist, even to this day. The Inugami is infamous for the haunting of the Kyuki family mansion. According to legend, the last member of the Kyuki family, Psycho Kyuki, was a paranoid man who sought for a way to protect himself and his mansion. His pet Akita Inu Tobi was ravaged by an unknown but fatal disease. In order to gain the protection he desired, Master Kyuki thought it was necessary to put his dying dog out of its misery by sacrificing it. When the ritual succeeded, a strange being was said to have risen from the dark ashes of Toby's corpse. The creature was obscured by black smoke, wore a dark kimono, and had a devilish Akita Inu head and a piercing red gaze. A lot different in appearances than any other Inugami. For a while, this Inugami protected Master Kyuki and his mansion, but in reality, it deceived Master Kyuki for his own malicious purposes. In secret, it killed off Kyuki's friends and servants and used its magic to turn them into its own demonic servants. It drove Kyuki mad, and when the moment came, the Inugami killed Master Kyuki himself, completing its collection of ghosts. The fiend was after the ownership of the Kyuki household, hoping to make it a home of nightmares and evils for all who dare to enter it. Ever since then, no one has ever entered the old Kyuki mansion, and no one was ever heard from again when they did. In 1978, authorities were investigating the disappearances of 3 teenagers in Kyoto, and it wasn't until they searched the Kyuki mansion that they began to suspect the hauntings being responsible. The police found a journal laying around on the second floor of the mansion. The journal belonged to Hiro Okamoto, one of the 3 disappeared teenagers. Here is a translation of what the journal says. May 21st, 1978, 4:23 p.m. That brilliant Kazuki has done it again. He was able to prepare a trip for him, me, and Akiko this weekend. What luck! He said this time it's going to be the old Kyuki mansion a few miles out of town. Akiko says that she's unsure about going because she's heard of the old ghost stories that go on at the mansion. How a crazy man that lived there killed his dog to create a guardian, but the guardian betrayed and killed the madman and now lives in the mansion. Both me and Kazuki assured Kyoko that the rumors about the mansion are mere old wives' tales, that everything was going to be alright. May 24th, 1978, 12:10 p.m. Well, here we are. We made it to the Kyuki house. Geez, talk about your fixer-upper. At least it's still livable at some standard, because Kazuki is practically enjoying himself with being here, while Kiko is still nervous about being here. Me, I'm a little unsure of myself, but I cannot shake the feeling that someone is watching us as we enter the museum. It's just me. 2:44 p.m. We had a nice lunch in the dining room, but Kiko's feeling more confident about being in this mansion. I'm glad. Maybe it's because we had lunch. As for Kazuki, he's going on about some rooms in the house, how particularly interesting and decorative they are. Clearly, whoever owned this place has an exotic taste. May 25th, 1978, 8:33 a.m. 8:30 a.m. Something weird happened last night. I was awoken up suddenly by the sound of something like a knife swiftly slicing through flesh, and then the mad whining of a dog in pain. At least that's what I thought it was. I shrugged it off and went back to sleep. Akiko's back to her unsure self again. She too looks as if she had some hard time sleeping last night. Staying, a pair of red eyes kept staring at her. Kazuki clearly saw something too, but he doesn't seem to want to talk about it. Akiko requested that we leave once more. I almost thought about considering it too, if it weren't for Kazuki, who told us that there was no ghost in the house, and said that nothing bad was going to happen. Maybe he's right. Maybe we were just having first night hallucinations. 12:30 a.m. Well, okay, something's up. I was just awoken by the sound of someone laughing, and then I thought I saw a tall dark figure standing at the foot of my bed looking at me, until it vanished like smoke before I could even have a chance to get a better look at it. And then I noticed that my room was covered by small inscription papers, all of them having one word: death. What the hell is going on? May 26th. Oh my god, 6 a.m. Oh my god, Akiko's gone missing. We didn't find her in her room, and we've looked all over the house. As we were looking, we kept seeing bizarre hallucinations that looked like the previous owners of the house. Not only that, whenever we tried getting out of this house, we ended up back in the same floor we came out of. Kazuki's acting very strange. He just told me that it was my fault for this happening. What the hell? He was the one who told us to come here in the first place. Why is he putting the blame on me? He almost attacked me, saying many odd things. Like Akiko and I were out to get him, or I was nothing but trouble. My god, look on his face. It was maddening. I don't know where he's stormed off to now, but I'm scared. Akiko's missing, and Kazuki's probably losing his mind. I just want to go home. 8:30 p.m. Sorry, 8:30 a.m. Okay. Kazuki seems to have calmed down, saying he's sorry for being the real cause of all this and just blaming me. But I don't know if I can trust him anymore. Though now, it's not the time for that. We need to look for Akiko. 5:30 p.m. We just got attacked by a ghost. It looked like a woman that had her neck snapped. Kazuki's practically beside himself now. He ran off screaming, "I can't take this anymore. I can't explain more right now. I need to go after him." 5:42 p.m. I managed to calm Kazuki down. My goodness, I've never seen him so broken up. He looks as if he's ready to kill himself. Not now. We need to find Akiko. 8:21 p.m. More ghosts. These ones. Oh god. These ones looked like they were killed in the most cruelest ways. I can't even describe it. Not only that, we keep seeing the same dog-like creature in some rooms. This was definitely the same one I thought I saw the other night. Is that thing the one causing this? Are the rumors true? Oh, please, no, please, don't let it be true. Kazuki, he's gone. He tried to kill himself. I tried to tell him not to, but the thing, it finished the job. It killed Kazuki and ran off with his body. I gotta get out of here. I don't even know if Akiko's a live eater. That monster has probably gotten to her too, but it won't get me. I'm gonna get out of here whether it wants me to or not. 2:40. I know it's after me. It knows I'm trying to get out. What is this thing? What does it want? What do you want? May 27. I can't take this anymore. I'm hiding in this closet hoping it doesn't find me. As I'm writing this, I can hear the dog spirit coming closer. Oh God, help me. Please don't let it find me. Whoever finds this journal, whoever is reading this, do not enter the Kyuki mansion. If you know what's good for you, do not enter. The journal of Hiro Okamoto stops there, along with a few bloodstains. On the last couple pages on the journal, there is nothing but the Japanese symbols for Yami Inugami. Translated, these words are Dark Dog God. Okay. Hey, I got time to go so I write this down. I don't want to say this is 1 star. This isn't good. This isn't great though. It's pretty boring. I'm gonna give it a 2 stars. 2 stars. I think it earns 2 stars. Well, I think we definitely know which one is the worst. It was the longest one, the first one. Absolutely terribly written. Ren and Stimpy, dirt like you belongs in the ground. Easily the worst of all of these. Results like that. Yeah, okay. Wow, only 5 people have fucking voted. That's crazy. But thankfully, Ren and Stimpy won. Oblivion, I definitely Inugami. Oblivion was the best. Alright, so worst to best. Ren and Stimpy was the worst. Then Inugami, Lost Digimon, and then Oblivion was, in my opinion, the best one out of all these. It was just the most standard haunted gaming ass creepypasta, and hey, we like that every now and then. But yeah. So that was the fail of the month. A fail of the month. Ren and Stimpy, easy. And that was the time. I hope you stayed around this long. Hope you enjoyed this at least a little more than me reading all these. Next week, we'll see what pops up in the on the new page. Just wanted to do that because I saw it. That'd be interesting. I mean, it was, I guess, to see which one was fail of the month. But yeah, honestly, Ren and Stimpy was the only one that I've truly considered bad. Everything else was like to okay. But yeah, next week we'll probably be looking at a couple of these from right here, along with whatever new pops up. I will see y'all then. Like, comment, subscribe. I love y'all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.